Darren, it's nice to have you on and have you joining me today. And I'll start the same way that I started with all the other guests, really. Can you tell me a little bit about like what rugby means to you and sort of your first involvement in rugby?
Yeah, I think rugby is a big part of my life at the moment. Much to my wife's disgust, really. I seem to be spending a lot of time with rugby, obviously with Ebervale. Also involved with obviously the Wales women deaf side, and my local side Rogerstone. So yeah, it does mean a lot to me. Yeah, my first involvement was in the Cardiff area, Rumney, when mini and juniors. I've been to the youth team there. Really enjoyed it. A different way of coaching down there, which held me in good stead, really, and gave me the values to to progress in what I'm doing now, and from a coaching perspective, really.
And can you tell me a little bit about sort of your first involvement with Ebervale and how that came about?
Yeah, I was at Newbridge at the time, Newbridge Rugby Club. I was strength and conditioning coach down there, and Jonathan Jones, the chairman of Ebervale. We spoke, for quite some time prior to my appointment up there. He asked me to come up and do some analysis, which I did do, and then it progressed from there. Really, went into obviously team manager post, which what I'm in now. And yeah, I mean, it's just an unbelievable club, on the field, off the field. The supporters, the coaching setup we've got there this year as well, headed up by obviously by Greg. It's just a really nice place to be. I can't wait to get started, really, Haydn, if I'm honest.
So can you tell me a little bit more about what the role of like team manager involves?
Yeah, I mean, it's not particularly difficult at Ebervale, if I'm honest. The boys are great. They have their moments, but they're pretty good. They're pretty professional. The medical team are superb. The off field, like kit men, etc. They all know their roles. And they're all brilliant, in fairness. So yeah, logistically, sometimes it can be a little bit of a nightmare, but with the type of group we've got, we all pull together and we get everything sorted, really. So yeah, it's a nice role, a little bit taxing on times, but yeah, certainly a role that I'm thriving in, really.
And you mentioned obviously Greg Woods, the head coach. What's he like to work with?
Anybody knows Greg, he knows what he's like. He's passionate. You cut him open, and there's a big rugby ball inside his chest, really. And yeah, he's very enthusiastic, very energetic, but really good with his staff and really good with his players. He's been in the game a long, long time. And he's certainly someone that not only the players look up to, but the staff look up to. And he's always there to give you advice, always there to point you in the right direction, which for me has been invaluable, really.
And obviously, Ebervale are known for their like loyal supporters that follow Ebu everywhere. How much do the supporters mean to the club, and also how much does the club mean to the community of Ebervale?
The supporters are the big part of Ebervale, really, historically. Before I got to Ebervale, and I went up there a few times with Newbridge and was on the end of a couple of losses. And the one thing which stands out is the sheer support up there. The addicts, and they just come out in any weather. Even on the back of the loss, you can walk back into the clubhouse as a team, and they're always there. They'll stand up, they'll clap you in. Very, very loyal people. And I suppose, when COVID hit, it hit them quite hard as well. We still obviously in contact with a lot of the supporters, who arrange like buses, etc., etc. And, they just can't wait for the game to start. It's, like I said, it's a big part of their life and it's a big part of their week leading up to a game day.
Yeah, obviously you said then about when COVID hit and it took an effect on some of the supporters. Obviously, I know Ebu tried to put on a few things like the Zoom night with a few ex-players and players. Did you feel it was important to sort of give back to the fans and the community in that time when it was difficult for them?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think Greg has been the driving force behind that, really. He knows how important it is for us as players and as staff to have that support behind us. But ultimately, it's really important for the supporters to know that we are thinking about them. We're just as keen to get back on board and get the ball rolling again, as they are. So, yeah, I mean, from that perspective, Ebu wouldn't be Ebu without the supporters. They're a crazy bunch, mind. I'll be totally honest. They really are a crazy bunch. But yeah, they're our crazy bunch, and that's what we're happy about.
And then a bit more on COVID. How did COVID impact you personally?
Well, I think it's funny. We had this conversation the other day, myself, Greg, and and Louis, the assistant coach. I think we were probably, when COVID first hit, we spoke to each other more than we have at any other time, really. We wanted to prepare for the new season when that was going to happen. Nobody knew, but what we wanted to do was, we targeted areas in the squad where we thought we needed to improve and bring in a bit more experience. And we spent a lot of our time discussing that over Zoom. We targeted players then, and the players that we wanted to bring in, we made sure they were the ones that we actually needed and wanted. So yeah, I mean, from that perspective, early doors, when COVID hit, I didn't really feel too much of an impact from a rugby perspective because we were so busy. But yeah, it got to about 3 to 4 months, and you're thinking right now we would have been playing, league rugby, and it's the Saturday afternoons really. You prepare yourself on a Saturday morning, even from a Friday night perspective. You prepare yourself, for the next day. It's no different being a coach, a manager to a player, really. We all feel the same inside. We all still get those butterflies and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's probably the one big thing which hit me was the Saturday, really. Scratching around thinking what we're going to do. But there is hope on the horizon, and yeah, we've got a game pretty shortly. So
yeah, that moves me on nicely then to the next bit I wanted to talk about. Obviously, we've got some friendlies lined up. I know they're playing Brecon this Saturday. How happy are the coaching team with the friendlies you've got lined up, and how much are you looking forward to seeing the boys back in action again?
Yeah, most definitely. And again, we prepared well for this. We picked the sides that we were looking to play now pre-season. We've picked good sides who are going to test us in a lot of areas. Brecon on Saturday, that only came about a couple of days ago, really, and they'll give us a nice test going into the London Scottish game in a few weeks' time. London Scottish, I think, is going to be quite a demanding task. It's going to be a real tough game. They've gone to a pro type environment now, so they're full time. And then we've got Cardiff Met. We always know Cardiff Met are always going to be difficult. And then we've got Jason Hyatt's Aberravon then, before we roll into the new campaign. So yeah, it's going to be a challenging pre-season, but one that we're really looking forward to.
And obviously, you mentioned some of the recruitment yourself and Greg and Louis did during the off season. There's some big names come in, the likes of Dav Howells, Dav Smith, just to name a couple. How much are you looking forward to seeing them in the Ebu setup?
Yeah, I mean, they've settled in really well pre-season. We've only been training once a week voluntarily. But in all fairness, because it's a voluntary basis, all the boys have come. We've had really strong numbers, and they've settled in well. You've got Dav Smith, you've got Alex Gray. We've got two boys from over the bridge. Oggy Doyle, who's returning to us, ex number 8 for us. Scott Parsons in the back row. Looks like he's going to have a bright future. Looks really powerful in training. And like you say, Dav Howells as well. Jordan Thomas on the wing, really exciting prospect. I think we're going to see a lot of Jordan this year, with his elusiveness and his speed. So, yeah, I think, going into this season, we're in a good place, and that's all we can ask for at the moment, really. Preparations have gone well. And now it's just about building into that first game of the campaign.
Yeah, and obviously with those incomings, there's also a few outgoings as well. Obviously, Captain Ashley Sweet is left, and Ross Jones has announced, stalwart Ross Jones has announced he's going to be retiring as well. So how much are we going to miss some of those older heads retiring or moving on?
Yeah, hugely. Ashley Sweet, stalwart, he's really difficult to replace, not only for the work he does on the field and his line-out prowess, but, he is an Ebervale, stalwart through and through. Obviously Cam Regan, is another big loss for us, not only for his exploits around the field, but his off-field antics as well. Cam is the life and soul of the party. He's a fantastic guy. But another one we're going to miss there. Big Ross. What can you say? He announces his retirement. I think people tend to use legends, too frequently, but certainly with Ross, he's got a legend written all over him. The nicest guy you'll ever want to meet. Very loyal. Big family man. And it's the time's right for Ross to move on and spend some time with his family, watching his children grow up. And it's so nice to see it. But he's going to be massively missed around the club as well. But not so much in the near future, because he's actually going to have one more swan song on Saturday against Brecon, which would be nice for everybody.
I'm sure some of the older heads as well are moving on or retiring or be around the club as well. That's sort of the the feel you get with Ebu, isn't it? Like, a player never really does move on, and you always see ex-players popping down to the club or for a beer to watch the team.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes Ebervale such a great club and such a great environment to be in. Like I said, I'm a city boy, and to come up to the valleys, you have your own perspective of what it's going to be like. But until you actually get here, you think, that I couldn't believe how nice the people are, how friendly they are. Once you're one of theirs, it doesn't matter what you do or where you go, you're one of them, and they look after you. And, it's such a nice club to be around. And I just think, boys coming back, they always tend to come back to the club and, meet up with the fans and players and whatnot. And, you got Kingsley Jones when he comes back. Kingsley always pops in. Byron Haywood, he pops in and whatnot. So yeah, we're not just talking a couple of years ago worth of players who come back and come back to the club, but you've got legends of the game really who've been involved in Ebervale. They still pop their head in and say hello and have a few drinks with us. So it's nice. Yeah, it's really good.
And obviously, touching on Ashley Sweet, obviously moving on again, that left the captaincy available, and the coaching team went with Joe Franchi. Was he the obvious choice? I mean, from the outside looking in, it seems like he was. Another like Ebu stalwart, really. Obviously, he's from Ebu as well, isn't he? So, how important is he going to be, and what kind of style of leadership will he bring to Ebu?
Joe Franchi's Joe Franchi. You know what I mean? It's he is typifies 100%. You know, his leg can be hanging off, his arm can be hanging off, and you won't get him off the field, and you won't get him any less than 100%. He was our obvious choice, really, just because of the type of person Joe is. You know, he's great around the boys. You know, and I think a good captain is not just about leading on the field; it's about, you know, leading off the field as well, and that's something that Joe brings. You know, he is quite a stickler for discipline, but he's also there to shoulder a lot of the issues boys have, which I think is, you know, is testament to the type of person and type of player Joe is, really. So really looking forward to, you know, to Joe, you know, earning his stripes now in the captaincy. And I think, you know, as long as he stays with us and he doesn't go somewhere else, you know, I can see Joe being a captain for a long time to come. Like Ashley, like Ronnie Kynes, you know, yeah, I think he'll be there for a while.
Yeah, and I know it's difficult to say, but then all things considered, what are Ebu's aims and ambitions for the upcoming season then?
I don't think it's a matter of aims and ambitions, really. It's you know, it's quite well documented. We didn't have the best of campaigns pre-COVID. We've strengthened well. You know, we've got, you know, great additions to the coaching setup with Ed Brain coming in from Sale Sharks with S&C. We've got an ex-player, Gethin Robinson, also coming as S&C. So Guess a great guy. He knows what it means, you know, to the fans, you know, with Ebervale. So they fitted in really well. Obviously, Saran now is heading up the medical team.
Yeah.
Shawnee has moved on. She's fantastic. You know, she's taken to it like a duck to water, really. Yeah, and yeah, I just think aims and ambitions, you know, finish as high as we can. You know, look at the structures that we're looking to play, you know, and just enjoy it, you know. And I think that's the big thing that can detract away from rugby sometimes, is the enjoyment element. But yeah, I mean, internally we've got our own aims and ambitions, but yeah, I think from that perspective, it's let's see what we can do, really.
And I just wanted to touch on quickly as well, obviously, we've been watching the Lions this weekend, and obviously he missed the game. He was meant to start Wyn Jones, winning his stripes in the Premiership. From an Ebu point of view, we had Aneurin Owen was involved with the Welsh setup. How important is the Premiership for developing these young talents? And do you think it gets a bit of sort of unfair stick sometimes for not being good enough?
I think so. It's you know, I think, you know, you look at, you know, all the regions really now. You know, a lot of the academy players are coming through the Premiership. You know, because the Premiership is a tough league. You know, there's not a great deal of difference between, you know, top and bottom in that Premiership. On their day, anybody could beat anybody, and you know, it's a tough environment. You know, it's probably not as quick as the pro game, but certainly from a physicality perspective, you know, I think, you know, when you've got younger players coming in, you know, looking to go up that pro ladder, it's certainly a great building block from there. And there's hot better talent there as well, you know, not only through the academy systems, but, you know, you look at, you know, Toby Fricker, who played for us a few seasons ago. You know, we signed Toby from over the bridge, and you know, within 2 years, he signed a 2.5-year pro deal with the Bristol Bears. So, you know, that's just only one instant. You know, it's, yeah, I don't know whether it gets stick for not being particularly good, you know, because I think figures from the TV games, you know, the feedback we had was there was more people watching the Premiership games than when the pro games were on. So yeah, I think it's probably a little more unstructured than the pro game, but certainly a lot more meatier and tastier to watch. So yeah, I think probably gets a little bit of stick, but not as much as people think.
Yeah. And moving away from the controversial stuff now, sorry to spring that on you. But I know I wanted to speak to you a little bit about your role with the Wales women's deaf team. Can you tell us a little bit about your role with them and sort of how COVID's impacted that as well?
So I was appointed head coach a year February ago, and we were preparing for the England game, which was on a Sunday. So yeah, it was lush. It was lovely to be in a new environment. The team, the staff, they were all great. Prepared well for the England game. Played the England game on the Sunday. Beat them in the last play of the game, which I think at the time they were world champions. And then we got locked down on the Monday. So yeah, you couldn't write it really. We've had one training session since, and that was quite a few months ago when the restrictions lacked a little bit and were a little bit relaxed. But yeah, I mean, the message to them at the moment is, start off with your clubs now, and then we'll start getting back and introducing the training sessions again, and then obviously prepare for the World Cup if it goes ahead next year. But yeah, it's like I said, it's a great environment to be in. Everybody are great. Obviously got a new coaching setup within that the women's team. And it's just we haven't had time to implement a lot of things that we want to do, and build on the great work that Rob Coles has done with them. Prior to me coming in.
And then to finish, then there's a little teammates round. So this is from obviously all the boys at Ebu, and it's just the first person that comes to mind. Each one, a little bit of a laugh to finish. So first of all, who never pays for a round?
Dan Hill.
Who's the worst drinker?
Ethan Phillips.
Who's the feistiest?
Feistiest. On field or off field?
Could be either.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one. We've got a few feisty ones. I'd say Di Jones.
Who's the scariest?
Scariest. Joe Franchi, I would say.
That doesn't surprise me. And lastly, who's the funniest?
Funniest. I'd probably say Pellet. He's funny without Luke Garrett's funny without trying to be funny.
He's one of them.
He is, yeah.